ever get the urge to eat human flesh? I mean, that's a weird question to ask right off the bat, right? So, Antlers has been awaiting release for such a long time. It was originally set to come out in April of 2020, and in my opinion, it was worth the wait. With that aside, I want to explore this film with you and discuss the differences between the film and the short story, as well as the underlying messages and the lore that the film tackles. Without further ado, let's explore Antlers. And oh yeah, if you haven't guessed already, this is going to be heavy spoilers, so if you want to go watch the movie and watch my video after, go ahead. Alright, let's act like you actually did that. Antlers takes place in Oregon, a change from the short story The Quiet Boy, not to be confused with A Quiet Place. This isn't the only change, as you'll see later, but as I was saying, in the short story, it takes place in Rexford, Virginia, near a dead railroad station. The change to Oregon is welcome. It makes a great landscape for this chilling film. I mean, there are some gorgeous shots here, but then there's shots of the town and you see the economic shortcomings of our setting. The town appears to have been built around a now abandoned mine shaft. There may have been a time when the town was bustling, but that's long gone now. I mean, the cold open to the film has men, one of them being Frank Weaver, using the mine as a cookhouse. Or maybe a drug den? I don't know. I'm not familiar with drug terms. That's when they're attacked by a creature. Maybe it was tired of smelling their crack all day. I really like how dark the film is. I mean, when they're in the mine, it's dark. There's hardly any of that studio lighting. It reminded me of The Descent. And in these shots, the camera really holds onto the dark. The film really captures how isolated and down bad this town is, and how perfect a setting it is for the horror to come. The hungry creature in this film is a Wendigo. Boy, have I been waiting to see a Wendigo done right, and finally. So if you don't know, a Wendigo is an evil spirit based in Native American lore. It embodies greed and hunger. Once a human decides to eat another human's flesh, that's when the spirit takes hold and the person transforms and becomes unrecognizable, usually adorning horns or antlers. The Wendigo is usually associated with the winter and the cold. During the winter, there was always the fear of starvation and death. Natives believed that resorting to cannibalism was abhorrently evil, no matter how hungry you are. In the film, they tinker a bit with the lore. One being that if attacked, you will become one, kind of like a werewolf or a zombie bite. But it looks like the subject won't fully turn until they get that taste of human flesh. In the film, Principal Ellen Booth, played by Amy Madigan, does a wellness check on the family. She enters the home and realizes something is very wrong. She hears sounds coming from the upstairs, so she decides to take off the locks and go up to the attic. That was a fatal mistake, and she is attacked by a very hungry Frank Weaver. After ingesting a few bites of the principal, it is enough for Frank to fully transform into the beast, and he sheds his old human skin. The shedding coincides with the lore as well as the short story. In the story, Julia is the one that does a wellness check, and she ends up finding two bodies, which are Frank and Aiden. But the bodies look too decomposed to be recent, which alludes it to be their old human bodies. Yeah, Wendigos are pretty dang gnarly. Again, like I said before, this film did Wendigos right. The film follows Julia, a middle school teacher who recently returned to her hometown. During a lesson on folklore and fables, she notices a student of hers by the name of Lucas Weaver. He tells a horrifying story about 3 bears in a dark cave. Suffering from abuse in her past, she interprets the story as a cry for help. There's a through-line theme of abuse throughout the film. The movie starts out with a voiceover that boils down to us as a society ignoring the abuse of the earth. But as the film goes on, you realize that people usually turn a blind eye to abuse in general. You get the feeling that there is many opportunities to help Lucas out before Julia. Julia has a conversation with Ellen about Lucas, and she learns that Ellen is very well versed in this case, but hasn't done anything because of societal neglect. There are situations like that where a person asks, what am I supposed to do? We see it also with Julia's brother, Paul, played by Jesse Plemons. Although he is a sheriff and has suffered from abuse himself, he has turned a blind eye to Frank Weaver because maybe he thinks if their father is gone, what would happen to the kids? Little does he know something much more sinister is going on. The father is in the drug world. You can interpret the film as what abuse in general can do to a family. In this case, drug abuse. We also get the inclination that Julia had once been an alcoholic, with her visits to the local grocer, but she fights it off each time. When Julia was younger, she was abused by her father, which is the reason why she left town. There are times in the film where she shares regret with her brother for leaving him, but she couldn't stay anymore. We can guess that she used alcohol as a coping mechanism. That brings me to Lucas himself. Jeremy T. Thomas is just so great in this movie. You can feel his affliction and struggle with what is going on, but he has this devotion to desperately help his family through this situation, even though it's one that is very much far gone. There are disturbingly fantastic scenes of him capturing food for his family or laying all alone in the dark as you hear his father and brother yell out in hunger. Scenes like that just add to the dread. He knows he needs help, but he also knows that help would entail him losing his family. Unfortunately, he doesn't have a choice in the matter, because his father and brother escape and go on a murder rampage, feasting on a few townspeople. Julia takes Lucas home with her, but the Wendigo follows them, killing an officer in a great jump scare and badly injures Paul. During the ordeal, Lucas goes with his family to the abandoned mineshaft. Julia follows, and we have a showdown between her and the Wendigo, and we finally get a great look at the creature, and boy is it frightening. Julia kills the Wendigo, but after we hear cries from Aiden, the younger brother. He is making his final transformation, and Julia has to make the difficult decision to kill him. This scene is absolutely heartbreaking, with Lucas trying to protect his brother. Lucas finally accepts, and Julia kills Aiden. We then move forward about a day. Paul, Julia, and Lucas are at a lake. Paul and Julia are talking as Lucas plays in the rocks. They're discussing on what to do with the boy, and they pretty much come to an understanding that he will stay with them. As they make their way back to the car, Paul begins to cough into his hand. He pulls it away from his face, and you see the black substance that both Frank and Aiden were coughing up earlier in the film, and we cut to black. Paul has the Wendigo infection. It's a messed up ending for a messed up movie. The short story ending has Julia taking Lucas to her cottage. There is no sheriff brother in this short story, so Julia lives alone. She learns during a phone call with the town sheriff that there is a string of attacks throughout the area. Lucas tells her that his father and brother are looking for him. They hear her landlord get attacked in the distance, and also a pizza delivery boy. They huddle up in the kitchen in fear and see the Wendigos in the kitchen doorway. The Wendigo actually speaks in this story. It whispers to Julia, "Give him to me." Frank actually wants his son. Julia refuses, and we cut to the next day. The sheriff comes to her home and finds a mess. He finds Julia alone, all over the kitchen floor. This ending is a lot more hard-hitting in my opinion, but I feel like the ending to the film is the right one. In conclusion, I really enjoyed Antlers. It's dark, horrific, and shocking. The storytelling is very well done. There was only one scene I could say that took me out of the film, but overall, Antlers really messed with me. I haven't felt like that while leaving a theater in a long while. It's an all too real look into abuse and shortcomings that many people go through. Alright, well, I hope you guys enjoyed this exploration of Antlers. I want to thank you so much for watching. Make sure to let me know what you thought of the film. So leave a comment down below. Also make sure to like and subscribe. This is Everything Horror, where we love to talk about everything horror. Take care, peeps.